welcome to the video. This is a 1999 Honda Foreman 400. I just picked this up for $1,100 off of Facebook. Seller was claiming that there's no spark on the unit. So I'll give you just a quick walk around here. It's got what looks like some pretty nice tires on it here. Their lugs are in good shape. All four of them hold air. Same with the rears here. Pretty nice tires. Reflectors, taillights are still there for the most part. This one's a little beat. Racks are in decent shape. A little rusty, but plastics are in, I would argue, pretty decent shape for the year. But the someone spilled, this is like almost tar or asphalt or something. It's strange. Seat is a little worse for wear here, but nothing a little seat cover can't fix up. According to the dash, we got 1660. This is in kilometers, and then I think there's 1130. So I'm assuming that's 113 points. I don't know, or 1,130. I don't know. Hours. Maybe someone can advise me. I might try to take this apart and give it a little clean because that's pretty brutal. Came with a key, which is always good, but don't get anything. I'm assuming the battery's probably dead. A little bit of fuel in there still. It doesn't smell too good. I smelled it a little earlier here. There's yeah, the decals are missing, which is kind of a little odd, but and shifter, it does shift. Feels like it goes into gear. It's in neutral now, and that would be, yeah, that feels like a gear, so that's always good. Got a bolt, a couple washers and 2 nuts, and what looks like a toolkit. Let's see, toolkit's always nice. Look at that. Pliers, screwdriver. Look at that, whole toolkit's still there. That's rare. That's pretty nice. Definitely make sure that sticks around. Pop the seat off here. See, filter's in pretty decent shape. Carb. Throttle sounds like it's moving. Here's the battery we'll have to get to. Oh, you know what? One of the terminals is disconnected here. Fuse panel with no cover on it. Probably not ideal if you're going through any kind of water. Well, we'll start diving into this thing. Alright, got the plastics taken off there. And then I was messing around with it a little bit. Pulls over quite nice. Got the spark plug pulled out. The spark plug looks pretty new. Looks like it's in pretty good shape, actually. Got the battery pulled out. Threw the battery on the charger there so that you get some juice. It was reading 2.7 volts with the meter, so we'll see if that has any life. And then pulled the spark plug connector off here. Untwisted it because it's looking, the wire, there's not a ton of material in there, so I'm gonna try cutting that back maybe a little bit. Then I was pulling down the whatever the box is in here. I guess that's like the coil, so maybe I'll pull that out, see what we're working with. but it looks like it's in pretty good shape. All right, we got the ignition coil pulled out of the machine here. So what we're testing for here, essentially, if I read my meter. So what you're testing for is between here is the primary coil, which typically should have a pretty low resistance. So 0.4 ohms, 0.3 ohms. So that's probably pretty good. And then the secondary coil should be between here and the actual wire itself. So if I shove this down the wire, stuck that in there, go to here. Small resistance, so you can see if this is in the way here. So you can read right here, my meter is reading kilo ohms. So we have 3.12 kilo ohms, which is probably pretty good for a ATV ignition coil. Might have to look up the specs on this guy, but it's a good spot to start. Okay, so I do actually want to try to take the tank off of here so we can see what's going on underneath it as far as wiring goes. So it's looking like we got a 10 mil bolt here, here, and then I think the plastics hold the rest of it down. One. There's those two bolts. So that tank should be free now. Check out this gas line here. Alright, with this petcock, this should be set to off. Yeah, that says off there, and then on is up. Reserve will be to the bottom. So, technically speaking, I could pull this line off there. Yeah, don't lose any gas. That's good. If you could take this right out. Now we got all kinds of access to the wires that are connected to the coil. This one's feeling kind of, you can see the little bend in it there. I was wondering if it's got bad wire in there. There's no filter connected to this, which I'm not a fan of for the fuel. We will try to change that. Zip ties the hose clamp. This fuel line's got some tape on it here. Oh, it's just holding the little heat shield on. All right. Might cut that fuel line back, try to reseat that. All right. So I just wanted to come check on the battery. It's been sitting on the charger here. So we got 8 volts coming out of there now. So I'm just curious. I have this old battery out of my Grizzly. Let's see if there's anything coming out of this guy. We got 12 volts there, so maybe we'll leave this guy on to charge for a little longer to see if we have any life in this battery. And then maybe we'll hook this up and I'll try pulling it over a few times and see if we got any spark. I just wanted to add here before I hook everything back up. So the battery that I have on the charger that I just showed was sitting in the battery tray, of course. It was not connected, so which is unfortunate because I will have to look for some hardware to connect it to. But I was also noticing It's really loose on that starter solenoid there. I'm gonna have to tighten down on that. Hopefully that solenoid is still doing what it's supposed to. The electrical in here is not looking too hot, but I guess we'll see what we can find. Some gnarly corrosion on this. Not sure what component that is, a relay of some kind maybe. Just before I reconnect everything here, I clip this back a little bit so now that there's a little bit of actual conductor showing here. So we'll thread the spark plug connector back on and get this loosely hooked up back to the machine, and then we'll try connecting some power to it. All right, we got those wires hooked back up to the coil, the plug wire back together. So let's see if we hook up some power here. Power in the form of a battery. Touching. So let's see, I've never tried turning the key with power. Alright, so we got oil temp neutral, we're in neutral. So realistically, I turn the choke on. We don't have any fuel connected, so we're not going to start, but let's see if it turns over here. Button's a little sticky. I wasn't holding it there. Yeah, that button is, it was turning over on its own there. It does turn over. I mean, there's no spark plug in the motor, so there's no compression right now, but that's weird. It's like an on-off switch. I've never seen that with a start button. Typically, it's just you hold it and it's just a holding button. Oh, it's got a horn. That scared me. Got the dog going. We got a headlight. Shining on the beer cans. Head, high and low. That's good. So I'm realizing I made a big mistake here. Well, not that bad, but I never checked the oil. Check this here. It's not the nicest looking oil, but it's definitely filled up to the level that it should be. When we thread the dipstick in here. It's coming out at a pretty good level. It's on the line, so not too worried about turning the motor over with that in there. Not good oil by any means, but better than none. I'll have to do a full oil change and filtering out all that good stuff. Probably be a good idea. I was just checking here. I cut the connector. This is the one connector off the coil in there. I was just checking to see if we have continuity. We do, because I was worried about this. It looks like this wire has been kind of bent for a long time like that. There's a pretty good bend in it. It just feels like I was worried the conductor in there might be bad, so I'll crimp a new, these are stake-on connectors, so crimp a new connector on there and we'll be good to go. Alright, we're going to verify that we're actually getting voltage to the coil. Disconnected the coil. These are the two wires that go to the ignition coil. I'm going to put that meter in DC volts. I'm going to go key on. Oh, you know what? We got to connect a battery first. Give me 1 second. Alright, there we go. We got the jumpers hooked up. Connected to the leads. Now we got some power. Still on DC volts here. Let's see if we crank this thing over, we should be getting 12 volts there. All right, no 12 volts. And I figured out this button here. It was just sticking a little bit. Contacts are a little corroded probably, but it's working now. So, no voltage to the coil. So we move on. Okay, so I did a little bit of looking, and I was looking for the voltage rectifier, which I found, and this is exactly how I found it. I did not touch anything here, so I'm almost wondering if that's why we lost our spark here. Let's see if I can get a good connection in there. That it's not coming off now. That is back on. So let's give that a try. See if we're getting voltage to the coil now. All right, battery's back hooked up. Got the meter back on here. DC volts. Got key. See if we get voltage now. Just for fun, I'm gonna try switching these leads around and see if that has anything to do with it. All right, let's try now. Turn the key on. Yeah, no, I figured, because DC volts only work one way. All right, we dive on. All right, so I pulled this voltage rectifier out of here. These are just mounted sort of right in there where that wiring harness is. You can see the outline of it and all the dirt. I was reading online that these guys usually are a culprit. I was noticing there's like some stuff in there. Like, I'm almost wondering if this thing was getting hot. I don't know. We'll take a meter out and try to read some ohm readings, see if we get anything. All right, so we got the meter here set for ohms, so should be reading some ohms here. So this is the rectifier here, the voltage rectifier. So essentially we should get a resistance through here between some of these terminals. Can't really find like a good wiring diagram or anything about this online, but basically if we go between them, we should get a resistance of some kind, because all this is passing voltage through. So we're getting 32.9, that's kilo ohms. There's a, let's see. Sorry, pretty low resistance. What do we have here? We got just about that's 1 mega ohm. So that's a high resistance. Unless that's milliohm. Not really sure with this meter. That's kilo ohms, 32.9. So if we just keep going between these, getting some resistances, but again, not totally sure what they should be. That's probably milliohms. And there's 0.8 ohms between those two terminals. Let's see if I can find anything in like a shop manual about these. Check back in. What I'm hoping to do here is disconnect somehow. This stator here. Sorry, the stator connector. Okay, so we got that disconnected there. So now what we want to test for is, we have a meter set for continuity here. So clip that up there. So we're set for continuity, so when we touch these leads together, we should get beep. So it's 3 yellow wires. That's yellow on the back there, I can promise. Those are the 3 3 coils for the stator, so should get continuity between them. Test that one, good, and those last 2. Sorry, one-handed work here. And that one, yeah, okay, so that stator is probably pretty healthy. I'm assuming that's not our problem because typically the stator is usually a charging problem, but it's probably a good idea to test anyways. Alright, so after a little bit of messing around, pulled the CDI box out of here. CDI box is mounted right up in here. You can see there's another little control module in there. I disconnected that. One of these terminals is a yellow wire. If you take your meter and go yellow to ground, not supposed to have continuity to ground, which we don't. And the fact that we don't have spark leads me to believe that this CDI box has failed, considering the rectifier seems to be okay, the stator seems to also be okay, and we weren't getting any voltage to the ignition coil. So I'm gonna order up another one of these because find the knockoffs online for relatively cheap. Order one of those up and we'll check back in a couple days. And then I will also have new oil for the motor and a new oil filter because that oil looked pretty crusty in there. And then we'll also probably give that fuel tank a good flush because that fuel smells pretty bad. So we'll dump that out and put some new gas in it, and then hopefully this thing will be ready to be running. Alright, I just pulled the drain plug here for the oil. You can see a bit that I dropped on the ground here. It's pretty black looking coming out of there, but I'll give that a quick change. Got a new filter to throw in as well, which on these machines is under these covers. I think these are a couple of 8mm bolts, and we'll get that changed out. Also got a new air filter. This one is a little black looking. The only thing, I'm gonna need to get some filter oil because I don't have any in my garage here. Alright, that was the last little bit of that oil drains. Pull this off. Ooh. Alright, so the kit that I bought here did come with a new O-ring for the oil filter cover here. it appears to be in pretty good shape. And it's oily, so we'll give it a try. Worst case scenario, if it leaks, we'll change it out, but probably not totally necessary to do every time. Alright, we'll toss this drain plug back in now that we're just down to a slow drip. The drain plug on these machines for the motor is very easy to locate. It's the only big hole in the middle of the skid plate. Get that on there, and then we can fill it back up with oil. Alright, so according to the internet, this machine takes 2 quarts, or I think it was 2.1 quarts and 2 liters, or whatever the hell the conversion is there. So I have a 4-liter jug here of 1040. This is direct from the Honda dealership. So we'll top this guy off here.
That's about 1 quart.
We'll just give it a quick check with the dipstick, just to double check that I see too much down in the bottom of the pan here, but never hurts to check here. We're not on the dipstick yet, so.
Yeah, that should be about 2 quarts.
Yeah, there we go. Right on the, I don't know if that camera will pick it up, right on the top mark. So, pretty perfect right there. New fresh oil for this thing. We'll, the fuel filter we gotta put on next. I also scrubbed off a bunch of this tar that was on here. This one's thick. Like that's like probably like 1/8 of an inch thick. Like that was on there heavy. So, but I scrubbed most of it off, so at least it, you know, looks like a Honda again. Some of it off of here. I took the cluster apart, cleaned it out, so now you can actually like read the hour meter. So I'm thinking it's 1100 hours, 1130 hours on 1600 kilometers, which would make sense because the documents that I found in it said it was registered to a farm. So it more than likely did a lot of sitting around and idling, going from grain bin to grain bin or something along those lines. So, all right, so I just want to cut in this fuel filter here into this line, but I also want to redo that little end there. So we're gonna just cut a bit off of that so that hopefully we can get a bit better seal out of there. And then we're just gonna, this says flow, oh, the camera's not gonna pick that up. It says flow this way. So we're gonna go to the carb. Ooh, that's kind of loose. Okay, maybe we'll throw a zip tie or something on there to tighten that up. But it's that. Oh, but actually, you gotta put these little, because this fuel line just kind of dangles right next to the exhaust here. So there's these fancy, just heat guards or something along those lines. So I'll throw those over. Just because I don't have any hose clamps, and I know this isn't right to do at all, but better than nothing, right? One there. One here too. Alright, so we picked up a new battery. Just went with Canadian Tire because it's all that's open today and they got good warranty, so deal with that. Got the new filter set up here. Got the inner filter shell installed in there. And then I got some filter oil here, so just give this guy a quick spray. Alright, well, after much diagnosing and both forgetting to film and not really caring to film because I was very frustrated, we have, I think, discovered the problem. We've followed everything you possibly can in the control manual, or the service manual rather, for troubleshooting and figuring out why we have no spark on this machine. It started with me taking apart and actually completely isolating the engine on-off switch. It's got a key, whatever. So took that out, connected those wires together in hopes that maybe that switch was bad. Still nothing. Replaced the CDI with the Amazon special here. Whether this is good or not, who knows? It's up for debate, really. It's a $20 part, so who knows? I put this in, nothing else changed. So it stemmed back to the fact that based on service manual, when you connect your meter to the blue and yellow wire coming out of the stator, which is here, spoiler alert, and the green wire, which is a ground, when you connect between those two, your meter should read minimum 0.7 volts DC at least once. This is the ignition pulse generator. So what this does, sits right here, bolts down right there, and this little nub here supposedly monitors and receives, I guess, a voltage or like a magnetic current through, not through the stator, but through the rotor, which is driven with the crankshaft. The rotor is right here. The rotor is this ring. So as that rotor spins with the motor, when the motor's running, that spins, rotates around this. If you're familiar with how motors work, creates there's magnetic fields going on here, creates electricity. Long story short, this is, as that crankshaft is rotating around, is sensing a certain point on there, I'm assuming, and sending a signal through this wire, which is there then translated into a very small voltage reading in DC current that then communicates with the CDI box up in the front, which is another test that I ran because I connected, based on the wiring diagram, I connected my meter to the wire that comes from this harness, which comes from this wire here, from this. Goes all the way through up to the CDI box, all the way through the quad. And you should be receiving the same amount of voltage there, which again was not. So ended up pulling the stator, as mentioned before, spoiler alert. It's a bit of a task. There's a number of different size bolts that I didn't pay attention where they all come out of, so it's going to be a mystery to put back together. Along with a couple gears here that I'm assuming, like this is your starter motor, and I'm assuming this gear drives something. I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough, but that's what I know. So I'm going to go ahead and try to order this part and hope to God that that is our spark issue, because otherwise I will probably be replacing this stator next, and I'm sure that these are very hard to track down, so stay tuned. All right, well, I'll fast forward a couple days, and this is where we're at. The quad is about 95% reassembled. Just have to actually bolt the tank down. I got some plastics to put back on over the tank. But we are running. We got spark. So the things that were changed was I replaced the rectifier, because every forum everywhere says you should. So I did. And then I also replaced the stator and the pickup coil. It's referred to as a pickup coil online, although in the shop manual it's called the voltage pulse generator, or something along those lines. Ignition pulse generator. Sorry, just going off of memory here. But anywho, got those new parts in. Tried to replace the CDI up in the front here with the one that I picked up on Amazon, but that one, every time I would hook this up, it would trip the fuse. So I'm assuming that is probably not good. And then I also changed out the spark wire with the new coil. So after replacing all those parts, miraculously, go figure, the spark came back. I'm assuming it was the pickup coil that was probably our issue, given when you read off of that cylindrical wiring harness there's two wires. One's a ground and one is a signal wire coming from that pickup coil. So as the rotor spins around, it's picking up a certain point of the magnetic field. Not really sure how that all works, but that's my understanding. As it picks that up, it's sending out a small voltage to that harness. That harness is then going directly to the CDI with both stator power and the pulse signal from the rotor, and that's telling the CDI, okay, this is how many times we need to spark, whatever, per minute, per second, what have you, right? Motor things. Anyways, got some spark. Put it mostly back together just for test run purposes. I had a buddy over, he was giving me a hand, so I didn't really film any of the process of putting it all back together, which is probably good because it was a nightmare to do. We'll try it again this morning here, actually. This is the morning after, but we'll give it a try here. We'll give it maybe a little bit of half choke here. Let's give it a crank over, see. Oh, maybe she doesn't want any choke. Look at that. Might be idling a little low still. But she runs pretty nice now. So I will say, I fired this thing up first on just some carb cleaner, because we didn't have the fuel tank hooked up, so we just wanted to see if it would fire at the carb. It would, but it would only fire wide open, which is kind of to be expected when you're running a machine off of not its own gas. When we hooked up the tank, it took a long time. We had to fiddle with the carb quite a bit, and I ended up doing the $10 carb clean. I actually, the airbox was still out, of course, to get the stator out. So what I had done was pulled the carb. So there's a needle. It's this further nub in here that you can see. So that's the not the idle screw, they call it the pilot screw. So the pilot screw would be like, you know, your idle jet essentially. So I adjusted that one. The shop manual calls for 2 1/4 turns out from full in seat. I backed that out. I think it's probably only out about 1 1/4 turn. I'd have to double check, but that's just this particular machine. And then the other thing that I did have to do as well was I did pull the bowl off. Like, I just took the carb off, dumped all the gas out, and I just had it sitting there upside down. I pulled the bowl out, and I pulled the slow jet out, is what it's called in the shop manual. Would be your low speed jet, I assume, because the high speed was working fine. Like, you could get this thing to fire up with the throttle pretty much wide open, but it wouldn't fire up on anything below like basically full throttle, which I figured was probably not ideal because you can't idle or shift or anything. I took it for a ride down the road like that, and it was backfiring like crazy, and it was pretty bad. So pulled that needle. Sorry, I'm just realizing in editing that I'm actually calling this a needle. I pulled the jet is what I pulled, not the needle. And you could not see through it at all. Ended up blowing air through it, still couldn't see through it. Carb clean, blowing air, nothing. So then, I don't know if it's still around here. Yeah, I had, it's like a twist tie or something off like a bread bag, and you know, this was tiny enough that I could shove it down the jet, because it's a really small jet, of course, because it's just a low speed jet, so it's just a tiny bit of gas there, but stuck that down there, then you could see through it just slightly because it's, you know, a little tiny hole, and put it all back together, tried it again, and bam, she was idling. Had to adjust the idle a bit, and the throttle stopped because it was idling like extremely high, probably like 3,000 RPM. But once we adjusted all that, now it's running basically how it is. So yeah, hopefully this journey that I've been on can assist somebody. All right, well, here it is. Put the plastics back on as best I could. A couple push pins in places where they probably shouldn't be, but it's back together as best as possible. I was not able to get the cluster working as of yet. If I can figure that out, then I might try to add it to this video, but if you don't hear anything more about it, I probably didn't get it going. Yeah, put some tape on the seat here because there was just like sheets of leather wrapped over it, so at least that way it's like semi-waterproof, so that foam doesn't rot out too fast. So essentially all I'm going to do now is I'll probably throw some clips in of me riding this machine. I did find out after firing it up, because I hadn't looked that close, but there is actually a MBRP muffler on here, and man, this thing sounds good. Sounds like a 4-stroke dirt bike almost, less than a old Honda quad, you know. Anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna probably throw in some clips of this thing riding, and then I'm gonna be posting this for sale more than likely, because I don't really need this one. I have my own 350. It's older model than this, but mine has a winch and got it rigged for a plow and everything, so probably just leave this one for sale. Just chalk it up as learning experience on how to work on these things. And yeah, so enjoy the riding clips, and I hope you at least learned something in this video. If not, at least found it entertaining. Oh boy. Figured I maybe wanted 2 hands for that part. Made it through no problem. freaking putty in here. Holy smokes. Wow. I guess I should have realized that it stormed pretty heavy last night, so some of the trails out here are a little wet. But that's all good. Just makes for some wet feet. A little bit of mud on the quad, just break it in nicely. Alright, well, that'll conclude the video on the old 99 Foreman 400. I hope you enjoyed the video, because I definitely enjoyed making it for you. This was something I'm a little new to, so I apologize if it's not perfect, of course. This has turned out to be a pretty awesome machine, so hoping that we can sell it and, you know, get it in the hands of somebody that is gonna need it and use it for what it's designed to do, which is, frankly, is work. These are great machines for working. I have as mentioned before, I have an 87 4 tracks 350. A very similar machine. Mine's still got the solid front end instead of the independent front suspension. So, but mine is, I love it. Great machine. They're really hard to kill. You gotta really put them through some serious abuse for them to not want to go. So yeah, unfortunately we couldn't get that speedometer going in this video, but you know, you can't win them all, right? So hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing or dropping a like. It's always appreciated, especially considering this is my first time, and yeah, hopefully I was able to teach you something and or just provide some entertainment.